On this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.
Everybody's putting everything they got into it. Not getting the results that we want yet, but we're certainly working towards it.
Why do the offensive linemen, why do they love running the ball so much?
Because we get to smash people.
Once they get pressure up the edge, the quarterback steps up, and they know that somebody else can get it.
It's Dallas week, let's go!
Welcome to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. The Giants take on the Cowboys in Arlington, Texas on Sunday. As always, we're joined by two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks and the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. And, Coach, obviously the news breaking earlier this week, Daniel Jones, a torn ACL, you lose him for the season. Just how difficult is that to deal with as a head coach?
Yeah, it's really more about the people. You know, these players put everything they have into it. You build relationships with the people, and when something like that happens for a player and a person you care about, it hits home. So prayers to DJ for a speedy recovery, but you never want that to happen to any of your guys.
Coach, and you know you're going to be without your quarterback, and injuries have been a part of this game, and whoever the quarterback is not as experienced as Daniel Jones in this system. So do you say to your guys, attention to detail, attention to detail, attention to detail?
Yeah, I'd like to think we say that all the time, attention to detail. I don't think you can turn that on and off, and certainly we have to do a good job of that. And whoever's back there, I think DeVito's done a good job of learning our stuff. I thought he did some good things last Sunday, but our attention to detail always has to be at the top of its game.
And, Coach, it's in today's NFL, right? It's too simplistic to say, well, if it's DeVito playing quarterback, or even it's Barkley who just got here, or whomever, you just hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. It doesn't work that way, does it? You still have to run your offense and do what you do, or else against a team like Dallas, it's impossible.
Yeah, and each week is different. So obviously Dallas is a premier defensive football team. They do a good job at both stopping the run and stopping the pass, and they play the game the right way, on schedule on offense, and score some points and take care of the football and let their defense really go to town, which, they've done a good job of. So, had a tough loss last week against Philadelphia, but, we all know what Dallas is.
Yeah, obviously, CeeDee Lamb had a big game. Dak played really well on the road, and they had the ball, 1st and 5 at the 6 with 27 seconds to go. You'd think they get it in. Didn't work out that way. What makes them so dangerous and explosive offensively?
Well, good players. I've said this before. Dak, I got a tremendous amount of respect for. I think he's an exceptional leader. Does a great job at distributing the ball. Pollard is a heck of a running back, and CD. They try to get the ball in his hands a variety of ways. Gallup is a good vertical player for them, and obviously they added Cook. So, and then they have a really good offensive line, which is really the start of it. So, a good offensive football team that plays well together in terms of their offense, their defense, and their kicking game, which we saw that obviously the first week we played them.
Coach, you got most of your offensive line back together too. How is that shaping up now? Are you starting to see a lot more cohesion?
Yeah, well, this was another one of a different lineup that we had, and we'll see what happens this upcoming week with where Evan's at, but Bobby's done a good job with them. We've put guys in so many different spots, and that's out of necessity during the week. And you make your decision on Saturday night sometimes based on how the players feel of where guys have to go. So whether it was Pugh at left guard or left tackle, or Bredesen at center or left guard or right guard, there's been a lot of moving parts, and I think those guys are pros, and they've done a good job of working together.
Coach, obviously you coach football for a living, but coaches are also teachers. Because you're working with young men and sometimes have to be psychologists. With the way things have gone and with the disappointment of losing Daniel for the rest of the season, do you have to take on a little bit of a psychologist role with especially the young players to make sure everybody's up and focused?
Yeah, I think you do that every week. You do that, since you start OTAs. You never know how a season's going to go, and obviously the season's not going the way we want it to go or envision it to go as of yet. There's a long season left. We got a lot of improvement to make, and we'll just take it one week at a time.
And then the final thing, like commitment level. So the team plane lands at 1:45 in the morning. By the time you get back to the facility, the weight room's open, and there's already guys in there before even going home, getting a lift or getting some kind of workout in. And then on Monday morning, again, guys were in there early. Does that speak to character on your team?
Yeah, look, again, I think you got to focus on the next week. I think we're all competitors. And we got a big week ahead of us, and I appreciate the guys' efforts. And again, they're trying to do everything they can do. I know as players, as coaching staff, everybody's putting everything they got into it. Not getting the results that we want yet, but we're certainly working towards it.
Coach, best of luck this week. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We're just getting started here on the program. Much more to come when we come back. Head-to-head as we get you set for the Giants and Cowboys here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for this week's edition of Head to Head with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
Okay, so let's take a look at some key players in head-to-head matchups for the Giants and the Cowboys, Sean. And first up, we're going to go with tight end Jake Ferguson against Isaiah Simmons. Now, Simmons has only played 35% of the snaps since he's been with the Giants after the trade from the Cardinals, but mostly he's been a spy or in coverage, not blitzed all that much like we thought he would, and that's why we have him going against Ferguson. Now, Ferguson on the season, you see this stat line. What may surprise you is that he's tied for the lead on the Cowboys with C.D. Lamb with 3 touchdown catches. That's certainly going to raise a lot of eyebrows. And he is second on the club in receptions. No matter how you cut it, he has become a dangerous weapon.
I think just like as a young player, he's very good with just like how he is with running his routes. He's really emerged as one of their targets, as one of Dak's targets. In these recent weeks, and me personally, when I watch him, I don't really get like a young player feeling from him. Just more of he's got a little season into his game. You know what I mean? So, I think he's a good player. He's a good tight end.
When the Giants acquired Isaiah Simmons, everybody talked about his athletic ability, and that's really what's going to come into play as he tries to cover Jake Ferguson. Paul, you mentioned, look, he's the second leading receiver for the Cowboys, second in receptions, and second in yards, second only, of course, to C.D. Lamb. And you mentioned his 3 touchdowns. All 3 of his touchdowns are in the red zone. So no doubt that's where Isaiah Simmons, his dauber's got to be up. When they get down in the red zone, Dak loves his tight end in the red zone. So I think for Isaiah Simmons, the biggest thing that he's got to worry about with Jake Ferguson is not just identifying the route and sticking with him, anticipating where he's going to be, Paul. It's what Jake Ferguson does after the catch. He is very slippery. He's got really good shiftiness, really niftiness, whether it's taking the ball after the catch and getting vertical or making a guy miss. He certainly has that. He's got a great catch radius. And one of his touchdown catches was against the Rams. It was a great throw by Dak Prescott. It was up the seam, little seam route, and Dak put it up high, and he just went up with his go-go gadget arms and snatched the ball out of the air. So he's got a little Kelsey-like slipperiness to him after the catch.
Ferguson, 7 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown last week against Philly, the best game he's had in his 2-year career. But one thing he's got to be wary of, the Giants are the 3rd best defense in the NFL against tight ends this year, only allowing 31 catches and only 1 touchdown pass to a tight end. We'll see if they can shut him down. We go to Micah Parsons against Andrew Thomas. Now, Parsons, we know, mostly lines up over the right tackle, but this year they have moved him around more than any other time during his 3-year career. So he's going to get his share of opportunities against Andrew Thomas. So far, 34 sacks in 41 career games for Parsons. And against the Giants, he's gone 3 of 5 games without a sack. So this is one of the teams that's kind of given him some trouble. He's had sacks in 3 straight and in 6 of the 8 games this season. No matter how you cut it, you better not take a play off against this fella.
He's a little bit smaller than normal defensive ends. He has the ability to play off the ball, play linebacker, so his speed makes a difference.
One of the words that people use to describe him is relentless. How much of a big part of his game is that word?
I think he plays hard, but it's not just him. Their whole front plays hard. They work off each other, and that's what makes them a good front.
And in speaking about their front, they twist and stunt and do a lot of stuff and trickery, probably more than anybody else in the league. How much of a problem is that to deal with?
First of all, you got to stay above the chains, stay in front of the sticks, try not to get in 3rd and long situations. And when you do, you have to be able to pass that off and protect one another's hip.
Andrew Thomas knows what week it is. It's Dallas week. Let's go. All right, Andrew Thomas. gets to play the Cowboys again. Of course, he got hurt in that week 1 nightmare on the blocked field goal. He was running after the guy, pulled his hamstring, and then we saw him back in action against the Raiders. But this matchup right here, this is what you live for, Giants fans and Giants offensive linemen. Every single year that I played for the Giants, there was some kick-butt pass rusher we had to worry about. A werewolf, as Bobby Johnson calls him. That's Micah Parsons. He is a problem. He is an issue. And Paul, everybody's got to be on their P's and Q's when you break the huddle, find number 11. But this matchup right here is certainly interesting. When you look at Micah Parsons, he's coming off of another big game against the Eagles last week, had 2 sacks. He actually beat the left tackle, Jordan Mailata, on a little speed rush. He's got added a little outside hand chop to his repertoire, and his speed and his explosion is the biggest thing to replicate. It's so hard to replicate that in practice and understand how quick he gets on you, but he's very slippery and he's got great movement inside the tackle. So he can get skinny in a phone booth and create some issues. Andrew Thomas, in his first game back, I thought he looked really balanced. He did a nice job with his sets, but I think this week he will feel much more comfortable. He has that rust off of him. And the biggest key with him is you've got to stay back with your punch, because Micah has a spin move. He's so quick. If you get your face in the block, all of a sudden he's by you and there's an issue. A guy like this, you try to attack him with some cracks from the outside by a receiver. You try to trap him, try to pull him, a wham play. Give him something else to think about and see so that he can hesitate a little bit. That will slow down some of that pass rush.
Of historical significance, Thomas and Parsons have actually battled in this matchup 4 times, 4 particular games, and Thomas has only allowed 1 sack to Parsons, and it came off the edge last season. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Head to Head this week. Now let's go back to Bob.
Carl, obviously the Cowboys are trying to get the tight end involved a little bit more. CeeDee Lamb had a big week last week against the Eagles. We'll dive into that when we go to the coach's tape with strategy. But you take a look at some of these matchups. The marquee matchup is Andrew Thomas and Micah Parsons, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. The marquee matchup is that offensive line versus Micah Parsons, because he lines up all over their defensive front. So, yes, Andrew Thomas is the guy who's probably going to see a lot of him, but they'll pick their spots and send him anywhere.
Yeah, and I thought Andrew Thomas performed really well last week, considering he hadn't played, you know, and as long as he had played. And then Tyree Phillips came in the game and did a pretty good job. He's going to see a lot of Micah Parsons as well, with Evan Neal banged up with that ankle injury.
Yeah, and you know, the thing with this offensive line that has improved over the last 3 weeks is that they're communicating. They know what their assignments are, and that's half the battle, because when teams start to run different twists in games, if you lose a guy, he has a free run at your quarterback. At least when you can know who you're blocking, your quarterback can identify that threat and move around.
When we come back on the program, Over Under with Madeline Burke here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Giants and Cowboys in Arlington, Texas on Sunday. Time for this week's edition of Over Under with Madeline Burke, Sean O'Hara, and Amani Toomer.
Time for a little Week 10 Over-Under, brought to you by the New York Lottery. Madeline Burke, Sean O'Hara, and Amani Toomer here to play the game. You know the rules. I'll throw out a number, and you'll tell me if you think we'll go over or under on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys.
Week
Sean,
10, wow, already double digits.
Already in the double digits. How the season flies. Over or under 2.5 pass breakups by the rookie Deonte Banks.
Yeah, Banks has 8 on the season already. So you look at him, he's done a great job. He's got 4 in the last 3 games. He's doing a really good job of breaking on the ball, kind of reading the route. So I'm going to take the over on this. Look, if he's guarding CeeDee Lamb, that's Dak Prescott's #1 target. He has 30 targets in the last 2 games alone. So he's going to certainly have a lot of opportunities to break up the balls.
Yeah, usually if they see something on film that you want to go after, you go after a corner. And obviously, being a rookie, Banks is a guy that you're going to target. I think I'm going to go over on that as well, just because I feel like he's going to get a lot of opportunities to knock away balls. I agree with you.
Yeah, Tay Banks is playing very well. He's getting in there. He's creating some havoc in that matchup. But you mentioned, targeting the rookie. I think they're looking at the tape and seeing how well he's done in that matchup as well. I'm going to take the under just to be different. I think 2 is the sweet spot that I'm going with this week, so we'll see. But hopefully we see the over on that one.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's actual interception. You don't have to just break it up. You can actually pick the ball off. That's allowed.
Pick it all off.
Yeah.
That even better than a PBU, right? Even better than a pass breakup. All right, next stat we're going with here, Amani, over or under 125 rushing yards by Saquon Barkley.
Ooh, I'm going to go over because, with the quarterback situation the way it is, the one thing that we know is this offense looked best the second half of the Jets game when all they were doing was giving the ball to Saquon Barkley. He had 136 yards. I think that's going to be what's going to make this offense move. That's going to be the one thing that this offensive line has really shown that they can do, create some opportunity for Saquon to use his skills and go upfield. So I'm going over.
That's a great point. Statistically, when you look at this category, you look at Saquon Barkley, he's only rushed for 125 yards or more than that one time this season. The Cowboys defense they've only allowed it twice all season long. And so statistically, you look at it, you say, no, it's definitely the under. But I'm with you on this. Saquon Barkley is getting the over on this. Tommy DeVito, you cannot ask him to throw the ball 35 to 40 times. This offense needs to run through Saquon Barkley. You also have Micah Parsons as well as DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side. So you have to take them out of the game. The way you do that is you run the football. Give him 40 carries. Yeah. There's no reason why Saquon can't handle 40 touches. Let's run the rock.
Right? Run the dang ball. It's a simplistic element, the basics of football, and that's where the Giants have had their most offensive success is committing to the run. Let's get the over on this one as well.
Listen to her.
Why do the offensive linemen, why do they love running the ball so much?
Because we get to smash people. We just get you get to be violent and just fire off the ball and
you can't do that against a pass rush?
No, in the pass you're kind of
different. It's different.
Stay out my quarterback.
Is E the technical term here, or
the technical term was E.
One run the dang ball against the Cowboys. Sean, you mentioned Micah Parsons. He is a threat right there. The Giants have a defensive game wrecker named Micah as well. Micah McFadden. He's been playing very well of late. Over or under 3 tackles for loss by Micah McFadden.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under on this one. As well as Micah McFadden has been playing, he's got 7 tackles for a loss this season alone. And you go back to week 1 against Dallas, he had one of his best games, 10 tackles. I think for Micah, he's done a great job with locating the plays, understanding the formations, and kind of beating the running backs to the spot. But I'm going to take the under on the tackle for a loss. I still think he has a monster game, but the Cowboys always have had a good offensive line. Yeah. And a lot of times tackles for loss comes with mental breakdowns or guys just getting beat. So I think it's not on Micah McFadden as much as I think the Cowboys running game is that good.
I'm going to go under as well. I just don't think that the way that the Cowboys are going to approach this defense is going to be running the football. I feel like they're going to try to get Dak Prescott going in the pass game, and I feel like they're going to use this as a tune-up game, and I do think they're going to de-emphasize Pollard running the football, trying to get this offensive passing game going, and that's why I feel like it's going to be under, because there's not going to have a lot of opportunities because they're not going to run the ball as much.
I think as much as the Cowboys are going to be leaning on the passing game because they've had so much success there, Tony Pollard is going to get the ball, and I think Tony Pollard's going to get the ball, which is going to create the opportunity. So give me the over on this one. Why not, right? Let's take the over. Let's go for it. Let's have it.
Send them. Send them in, wink.
Let's go full send on it on Sunday. Of course, Sunday, Giants, Cowboys in Dallas. You don't want to miss it. Let's send it back to Bob.
Carl, obviously Saquon Barkley had another productive game. He averaged 5.6 yards a carry last week against the Raiders. The Giants need to continue to feed him to take pressure off the quarterback position.
Well, it has to be playing to your strengths. And then once you can complement the quarterback position with strong run game and aggressive blocking up front, it makes your job easier and it keeps your offense on schedule.
The other guy, Micah McFadden, you really like what you've seen out of him over the last couple of weeks and the improvement in his game.
Well, I've seen the improvement probably from week 3, Bob. And the one thing that you noticed even from training camp is that when you look at linebackers, the first thing you want to find out is not how physical they are, is whether or not they can find the football. And Micah McFadden has, from the day he walked through, known how to find the football. That's, when you have a linebacker that can find the football, the other parts are teachable. And he's made the corrections in, his technique, his tackling technique and things of that nature, but he is just a standout defender for this team.
It's fun to watch him grow. When we come back in the program, Carl's going to go to the coach's tape with strategy here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. It's the Giants and Cowboys on Sunday. Time for strategy. As always, Carl Banks is going to take you through the coach's tape. And Carl, we're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys. Their passing offense is pretty darn good, especially at home. But even on the road last week against the Eagles, CeeDee Lamb had complained about wanting more targets.
Sure.
He got him, and he had almost 200 yards receiving.
Well, the difference is CeeDee Lamb is no longer a one-spot receiver, meaning he's not always out here. Now they're using him in the slot. They're moving him around. And what every opponent is finding out, that his route tree is just incredible. Here he is in a slot here. Now watch what he does. He runs a post corner, runs to the post, bends it to the corner, easy pitch and catch. Really good route here, but what it does, if you're playing outside technique and he takes off inside, you think, oh, my safety's got him here. But then he bends it back out, you lose leverage, and there he is again. So really good route, and he manipulates it because he now has a bigger route tree. Let's take a look again. He's in the slot. Watch what he does here. He goes up, a little stop and go action, stop, turn, go again, quarterback hits him on the sideline. Just really good options. So when you have CeeDee Lamb in the slot, you've really got to be committed to your fundamentals. Here he is again, his third guy in a bunch formation. Now, this is one I really want to focus on because what this back does clears out an area for CeeDee Lamb to sit down right here. So Giants will really have to be cognizant of that because you've got outside technique. He's going to run right in here and just sit down because, Bob, this back takes the linebacker out of the window that they want to put him in. And there he is. He sits down, catch and run.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously once he gets the football in his hand, he's pretty explosive with yards after the catch as well. So the Giants got to have to deal with that. Now, one of the things that Dallas does as well as anybody in the National Football League is gets after the quarterback. And we talk a lot about Micah Parsons, but he's not just a one-man band.
No, he's not. They work in concert, but literally you have to find out where Micah Parsons is. And it doesn't mean because he lines up here, he stays here. He can line up here and end up all the way in the middle of your offensive line. And let's just take a look here. This is exactly what he does. He takes 2 steps up, and he comes all the way around the center to make the tackle. Now, what makes it more difficult is these 2 guys are already occupied. So it's hard to switch that off. So you really got to have a backside offensive lineman on the lookout for Micah Parsons because they set this up so well. This tackle has no work once Parsons goes here, and these guys are occupied. So who else to help the quarterback? Either the quarterback sees it and moves this way, or this backside offensive lineman has to take him. It's a communications nightmare.
And those other 2 defensive linemen, selflessness, they know that they're not making the play, but they're going to hold their guy up enough that Parsons is free.
And then here you go again. Both guys up the field here. This is a non-Micah Parsons play when he's not involved in this, but just take a look at the hustle here, and they just keep going and going until they make a sack or tackle fumble.
Yeah, that's Dante Fowler, who's like a really talented player that they have coming off the bench to get after the quarterback. All right, one more look here.
One more look here. Micah Parsons off the edge. Just comes right around, slaps. He's right there. He doesn't get him, but you've got your other guys are coming all the way through to the center as well. So they know once they get pressure up the edge, the quarterback steps up, and they know that somebody else can get it. And here you go. He's breaking through. Parsons here, forcing the quarterback to step up, and it's a sack. So it's the Parsons effect, but they all work in concert with each other.
And Carl, those are some of the things that the Giants are going to have to deal with this week. Not only dealing with the multiplicity of the pass rush, CeeDee Lamb, and everything else that the Dallas Cowboys bring to the table. When we come back in the program, Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Amani Toomer here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Giants and Cowboys in Dallas on Sunday. Now it's time for this week's edition of Above the Numbers.
All right, now it's time to take a look at some of the swing players above and below the numbers for the Giants and Cowboys game in Dallas. Amadi, who do you have first?
Oh, I got Darius Slayton. This is a guy who has everything in his body to be an elite receiver. He's fast, he's quick, he has everything. The only thing he doesn't have is the consistency. His rookie year, he came on and he was on fire. And then last year showed glimpses of making big plays. He has the deep speed, the route running ability, everything. This is a guy who can change this entire season if he comes to play. Now, I know that there's some quarterback issues and all this stuff, but man, this guy has pure athletic ability, and I'm rooting for him. And for the Giants to upset the Cowboys this weekend, Darius Slayton is going to have one of his best games.
Slayton had a season-high 7 targets this past weekend against the Raiders. Also had a 34-yard catch, which was his season long. But in terms of going above the numbers, he's gone 16 regular season games without a touchdown. We know this guy can find the end zone. He's had 4 100-yard games in his career. One of them just happens to be against Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully he gets something good out of it.
My guy above the numbers. I'm
got?
going to defense.
All right.
And Cordell Flott. Now, this guy has really been a good utility guy. Played some inside, played some outside, getting a lot of playing time over the course of the last month. Did not play against Dallas opening night. He was injured. So they haven't really gotten a good look at him. Now, last year he did play twice against them. They completed 5 passes on 5 attempts for 54 yards, but without a touchdown. Here's the interesting number, though. 17 career games for Cordell Flott, only giving up a 60% completion percentage. That's a lot lower than the 5 out of 5 that Dallas hit him for last year. Only 1 missed tackle and none this year. That 1 missed tackle came last season. So when a guy catches a ball against Flott, he's going down in a hurry.
Yeah, it's a great addition to what happened earlier on in the season. This secondary, including Flott, have been able to tackle the ball a lot better than they did earlier on the season. I'm thinking more specifically to that game versus the San Francisco 49ers.
Right. All right. Who is below the numbers? Who do you got?
Oh, we got Tony Pollard. This is a guy who, ran Ezekiel Elliott out of Dallas because of his big playability. He hasn't gotten off to the start that people expected him to. Held well below his average last week versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a guy that if he plays below the numbers, puts more pressure on Dak Prescott, puts more pressure on the passing game. And when you look at this Dallas Cowboys team, they seem to be on a really good clip. We need some big plays. We need players to underperform. And this is the guy that we need to have under this week.
To your point, Amadi, about him stuttering, he's only had 1 100-yard rushing game this year. It was against Arizona. And by the way, since he ran for 2 touchdowns against the Giants opening night, he has not run for another touchdown. Shut out. It's pretty amazing when you consider the kind of talent this guy has. The problem is he can also hurt you in the passing game. Now, in terms of NFL running backs this year, he is 5th with 29 catches and 2nd with a 60-yard reception. That catch and run, again, 2nd among running backs this year in the National Football League. So we can make big plays by catching the ball. Doesn't have to be taking a hand.
Oh, yeah, he's dangerous when he has the ball in his hand.
Okay, so that'll do it for Above the Numbers this week. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, the last couple of years, Tony Pollard has delivered a lot of explosive plays. They don't have Ezekiel Elliott this year. The explosives are not as common for Pollard. It's important for the Giants to not let him find that this week.
This defense has to come out and play well early. You don't want the run game by the opposition to set the tone for them, because then you're playing catch up. You have to take away one phase of the game, and he has to be that phase.
Yeah, and one of the things the Giants have to do is they had done it consistently, get after the quarterback, didn't do it against the Raiders. They're going to have to get pressure on Dak Prescott, and that starts with shutting down the run game. When we come back in the program, we'll take you back in time to 2011 and a Giant victory against the Cowboys and a big one on the road. All that and more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Giants and Cowboys in Dallas on Sunday. Let's take you back in time to 2011. The Giants were hanging around but teetering on possibly not having an opportunity to get to the playoffs. They went down to Dallas for a big showdown against the Cowboys as Eli Manning worked his magic and the legend of JPP grew.
We could end up knowing every NFC division winner by midday on Sunday, except, of course, for the NFC East. That division race looks like it's going to go right down to the wire. The Giants and Cowboys engaged in a dogfight with 2 head-to-head meetings to go.
In Week 14 of the 2011 season, the Giants found themselves with their backs against the wall, needing a desperate win in Dallas to keep their playoff hopes alive.
It was a must-win game, you know. It was a team in our division. We need to win, and I'll do what it takes to win. And I told my teammates that, and that's what I did.
Romo takes the snap. He's under pressure, avoids the sack, gets tripped up, knocked into the end zone, and he goes down. And that's a safety.
Jason Pierre-Paul, relentless effort there.
Romo almost kept his balance, but because of the contact by Jason Pierre-Paul, that initiates the tackle, and that makes it a safety.
Boy, that's great individual effort, too.
In his head already. See the replay, you're in his head. Let's go.
That Dallas game, we say is JPP coming out party. And to watch JPP like a fan, man, it was just crazy. He really was a special talent. His skill set, just the way he got after the ball, the plays he was making for us, the fumbles he was causing.
Fumble the football, and it's picked up by the Giants' Deion Grant. Caught it right out of the air.
Now that's good defense and being opportunistic there. Who gets it out of there? That
Jason
was
Pierre-Paul.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
All that he was doing was wrong. People don't even know that was wrong.
Romo is back. He's under pressure, and he gets sacked back at the 42-yard line by Jason Pierre-Paul, his second of the game.
JPP was just an absolute animal, man. I think from the moment he walked in, even as a rookie, and we're watching him, he was built and shaped in like a 10-year vet. And you're just like, this guy's he's gonna wreak havoc in this league. And in that game, watching him just flourish and progress like that and really just, take over the game.
Tell you what, this kid, you say what you want about the rest of these stars on this defensive line, he has emerged as their best defensive lineman.
That boy, he just had a different motor, and I think it kind of intrigued the whole defensive line, if you ask me, because they were like, Tuck and OC and all them like, yo, we got this young pup here, we got to show him what it is.
You really making a name for yourself tonight, boy.
Hell of a job, Blue! Hell of a job, Blue!
Giants down by 5. Manning back to throw. Zips one to the left. Wide open Manningham at the 25, to the 20, to the 10. He'll walk in for the touchdown.
Wide open.
47 yards. Despite JPP's heroics and the Eli to Manningham score, the Cowboys would roar back, taking a double-digit lead late in the fourth quarter. Romo back to throw. Pumps, now sets. Wide open down the right sideline and caught by Bryant. He'll go in for the touchdown. 50 yards. Cowboys Stadium erupts. Cowboys by 11 with an extra point to come. Giants going to their no-huddle offense, 1st and 10.
We're down 2 scores late in the game. I hit Keem Nicks on a couple corner routes.
Flushed right out of the pocket. He's going to throw it to the sideline. It's caught at the 10-yard line. They say a good catch inside the 10 to the 8.
Eli Manning is throwing the ball well on the run when he has to move.
Every guy wanted to step up and be the guy and make the play. And when you call on, you just got to do your job.
Manning takes a low snap. He's back to throw. He looks middle. He throws middle to the goal line. Touchdown, Jake Ballard. Just got it across on Lee. With 3:14 to go, the Giants are still alive. Down by 5 points.
Someone has to step up here.
Man, that game was special because coming down to it, man, we go down and punch it in.
Turn around, you're about to see a touchdown.
Test of wills here.
2nd and goal at the 1 for the lead. A minute to go. Handoff Jacobs. He runs right, follows his blockers to the goal line. Touchdown Giants with 46 seconds remaining.
We run it in, take the lead, and then they drive down. They got a chance to kick the field goal.
And now Dan Bailey will try to tie this up with a 47-yarder from the left half with 6 seconds to go.
What a game.
Snap is good again. Kick on its way, and it's blocked. Blocked by the Giants, and it bounds into the end zone and through the back of the end zone, and the Giants will win it.
Individual rose up.
Was it Jason Pierre-Paul? He's done everything else tonight.
There he is.
Yep, Jason Pierre-Paul, JPP.
Some days I go back and watch that play over and over and over, and I'm like, dang, I did that. Somehow, some way, I just put my hands up, and I got through there, and it tipped it just enough to make it go sideways and miss the kick.
And the New York Giants have saved their season as they've come to Dallas and defeated the Cowboys.
What a guy! What a guy!
Carl, it was Eli Manning at his best. It was the Giant team cumulative at its best. And it was JPP. I think you started the whole. You're down with JPP at that point as he blocks that kick late in the game to preserve the Giant win.
Well, I tell you, that was, a guy making plays above the numbers, and that was kind of the theme that ran this team into the playoffs. They were just making play after play. If it wasn't Eli, it was one of his receivers making a big play or someone on defense. And JPP was such a catalyst to getting this team moving in the right direction.
Obviously a thrilling moment during that 2011 season. The Giants would then beat the Cowboys in the regular season finale, win the NFC East, and go on to win Super Bowl 46. When we come back on the program, 3 things and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. It's the Giants and Cowboys in Arlington, Texas on Sunday. Time for this week's edition of 3 Things with Madeline Burke.
It's week 10 and the Giants are headed to Dallas to face the Cowboys. I'm Madeline Burke with 3 things you need to know. The Cowboys have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They've got 4 defensive touchdowns on the season, leading the league. Micah Parsons was a first-team All-Pro in each of his first 2 seasons in the NFL. And with his play on the field this year, he's chasing a 3rd. Giants legend Lawrence Taylor is the only player since 1970 to be named a first-team All-Pro in the first 3 years of his career. And with the Giants headed to Dallas, they're playing in the stadium that opened in 2009. The Giants won their first 4 matchups at Dallas, but haven't won there since 2016. That's a wrap for 3 things you need to know for Week 10. Let's send it back to Bob.
Carl, time to take a look at some keys in this football game. Obviously, there's no Daniel Jones, so the Giants lose a fantastic weapon with his legs and with his arm. What are some of the things that the Giants can do to help the young quarterback in this game for them?
Well, there are a few things, but when I talk attention to detail, and I talk about that with situational awareness, meaning when you get in short yardage situations, not committing penalties, right? Not having the thing that kills your drive, backs you up. Because if you're moving the ball and there's a 4th and 1, and you can keep your drive alive, everybody has to have that sense of urgency. Everybody has to have that situational awareness and I can't jump because we can get this and we can keep our drive alive. That is important for that quarterback and for your offense. And then being able to run the football certainly helps a young quarterback as well.
The other thing, too, Carl, is, look, coming into this game, Dallas is coming off a devastating loss to Philadelphia. They had a lot of chances to win. Dak played an unbelievable game.
Sure.
Their numbers at home, they've won 12 straight home games dating back to last season, which is the longest streak in the National Football League. The Giants are going to have to step up defensively early because if Dallas gets that momentum going, they're big-time front runners.
Well, they are, and, just every week you have to play the game. And from a Giant defensive standpoint, don't wait for the game to come to you. Take the game to the Dallas Cowboys. That's how you set the tone. Because if you're just letting them do what they want and then you're reacting to it and then finally wake up, it's going to be too late. So you really have to take the game to the Dallas Cowboys.
And the other thing that the Giants have to do is we always talk about the above the X's and O's plays. At this point, they've got to make just the basic plays.
The X's and O's plays, yeah.
One drop of a pass led to an interception last week. Another one ended a drive. One thing that's been pretty unbelievable is Jalen Hyatt's getting open consistently. Now you got to hit him.
Yeah.
Because it's great to get open, but if you're not cashing in on these chances, you're wasting opportunities.
You really are. And I think this is a matter of just getting a feel for him, but you got to trust that he's going to run by his guy, and you got to put the ball out there. You cannot wait. Let him run up under it.
So the Giants are going to go into this game. Obviously, the news from earlier this week, Daniel Jones suffering a torn ACL, so he is out for the season. So the Giants are going to have to try to piece it and match it together here over these final 8 games. This week's game between the Giants and Cowboys is brought to you by Altec Lansing, the official audio speaker of the New York Giants. Make sure after the game on MSG Giants Postgame Live, all the reaction from the Giants and Cowboys. So for Carl Banks, Coach Daboll, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.